There are tales that should never be told, and incidents that would have been better left undone. In places far from the light, in the heart of the night, when the wolf returns to the edges of the forest, our destinies intersect with a dark world of secrets and the dead. There is no place to hide, no way to escape. Our footsteps leave their trace, red dust rising into the air, and shadows surround us from every side. We discover that reality can be far more terrifying than we ever expected, and that courage is not only facing death, but facing what we never knew even existed. What you are about to hear is the testimony of someone who was never meant to survive and never expected to see what he saw. Turn off the lights and listen. Harry slowly and cautiously raised the camera to his eye, bracing his elbow on the counter so his hands wouldn't shake, which was inevitable at these slow speeds, and held his breath. The thin bartender whispered to him in French, standing beside us, "Sir, for God's sake, don't do it." Harry whispered, tightening his aim. "And why not? He won't see the flash. He'll know. Dalmas knows everything. So his name is Dalmas. They know him and are used to him. And this Dalmas plays the role of the famous bar thug. Both impose their authority through fear. Fear of physical power and brutality in the case of the thug, and fear of the grotesque nature of Dalmas in the case of this creature. In any case, he succeeded in terrifying us. The panic that filled the hall is another example of the psychophysical radiation phenomenon discussed by psychologists. This phenomenon explains that psychological contagion that occurs in moments of excitement, fear, laughter, and depression. When a single soldier shouts for jihad, enthusiasm spreads through the entire battalion. When two people laugh in front of you, you find yourself laughing with them without knowing why. And when terror seizes those present in this hall, it infects us too, even before we know the cause of their fear. Harry pressed the camera's shutter after steadying his aim, holding his position and his breath for a full click. A full second before lifting his finger from the shutter. He was turning the camera lever for another shot. "That's enough, Harry." No doubt he wanted reassurance by taking multiple shots, because photos taken at B speed often fail. Click, then click. The creature gulped the contents of the glass, then slammed it violently onto the table. I glimpsed its bony hand slipping into the upper shirt pocket, searching for something. Then it emerged open, holding a coin, and offered it with its palm to the bartender. I had never seen a monster with such integrity. A monster determined, in pride, to pay for the rum it had drunk. Yet the bartender recoiled, disgusted and embarrassed, his composure terrified. He wanted nothing from this demon except to be left alone. Dalmas tossed the coin onto the counter. It spun a few times along the edge before falling, producing a sound that seemed terrifying to us. Then he turned and very slowly began staggering between the tables. Suddenly, those who had crowded his path made way for him again, not daring to make a single move. He was walking deliberately toward our table. "Mommy, he's going to eat us," little Jimmy said, sobbing and trying to vanish entirely into the folds of his mother's clothes. Her embrace of him grew firmer and braver. Harry's hands were still gripping the camera when that thing stopped in front of us, appearing in its ugliest form as it drew near. Its single eye was fixed on the camera. And slowly its bony index finger rose toward Harry, its arm trembling as it hissed in a snake-like voice in broken English, "Ha! Gimme!" Silence filled the place, and everyone braced themselves for what would happen. Harry stood up, his fist clenched, the bones of his jaw tightening, and shouted with real anger, "Listen, you clown. I don't know what hole you crawled out of, but I'm not afraid of you. And in any case, I won't give you this camera." The monster's body stiffened, and it stood for a moment motionless, as if weighing its next step. And I realized that I had to do something to prove that I was here. So I stood beside Harry as well, rigid, puffing out my chest muscles, pretending that all I felt was anger and not fear. Moments passed in which wills collided, and it seemed that this situation would last forever, until one of us died, if this thing was capable of dying. Then it looked at me with a gaze I will never forget, with its yellow eye. Then it gave a long look at Linda, who sat alert, the most horrible look I had ever seen in my life. Then it turned and slowly headed toward the door and disappeared into the darkness. We remained motionless for a while. Then sighs and breaths of relief rose, and I heard the bartender smash the glass cup that thing had touched in disgust. Voices of admiration and congratulations rose for Harry and me for our firmness in front of that repulsive creature. The thin bartender approached him, placing an arm around his shoulder with respect, and said in French, "You are brave, sir, but I advise you to beware of Dalmas, for he is a zombie, and zombies neither forgive nor forget. You must leave the island quickly, or at least send your family back to the United States." He shuddered in disgust and added, "He gave your wife a terrifying, threatening look. Didn't you notice that? It is a message that needs no translation." Strangely enough, he heard the sound of the camera shutter and realized that we had photographed him. His appearance suggested that he understood nothing. Harry said this while climbing the steps of the hotel staircase, the San Ramon Hotel, placing his hand on Linda's shoulder and holding the hand of the half-asleep Jimmy. I said, panting as I followed them, "In any case, he proved to be a civilized monster. He understands photography and pays for his drinks. That is refinement." What you have just heard is not the end. It is only part of the picture, a small fragment of a longer chain, where every answer creates a new question. Some secrets are never buried, and some nightmares do not end when you wake up. There are still details yet to be revealed, faces that have not appeared, and truths which, if you were to know them in full, you would wish you had never known. Until we meet again, remember, not everyone who survived has truly survived.